Welcome to this session of the Domestic Supply Chain Summit. I'm Eric Coolish, Air Cargo and Supply Chain Editor at Freightwaves. I'm joined by Brennan O'Dowd, CEO of 7LFreight, a Freightos group company. This company, which Freightos acquired late last year, specializes in pricing and booking technology for freight forwarders. Brennan, welcome to Freightwaves Virtual Chat.
Hey, thanks for having me, Eric.
So 7L Freight, what's with the name?
Yeah, so when we originally founded the company, we were just kind of doodling some logos, and originally it was two arrowheads to show the exchange of information. So you have the seven and the L, and then since we've gotten this question a lot, so people always ask us what the 7L stands for, and so now we've kind of adopted the tongue-in-cheek answer of that it's for that we provide software to all seven continents within the logistics sector. So works out. Still looking for that first Antarctic customer though.
Um, so Freightos, I'm familiar with Freightos. It's a booking platform for importers and exporters to book international cargo with forwarders. And then there's Web Cargo, which is a multi-party platform for forwarders to reserve space with airlines and ocean carriers. Then Freightos, buys 7L Freight, which primarily provides uh, real-time rate management and pricing for trucking. So how does 7L Freight fit in the Freightos ecosystem and help customers? What is the value that you bring?
Yeah, so we're pretty similar to Web Cargo in the fact that we traditionally work with freight forwarders, right? So we manage their rates, help them get access to their carriers, be able to make decisions with a lot of information right at their fingertips. And so how that works into the Freightos larger ecosphere is that a lot of our tools have those abilities to add margin on top, so our freight forwarders can actually put their buy rates out for the customers that are within the Freightos ecosphere.
Right. But but how does it meld, or do people just book trucking, or do they book ocean and air and trucking together as a kind of as a an all-in move, or how do you benefit or from residing within Freightos?
Sure. So I think that a key differentiator for us is going to be our trucking component. Obviously, Web Cargo is doing the air freight side of things, and they do ocean. We had a lot of overlap on those services, but we also have integrations with about 140 or so different LTL carriers. So you're able to be able to book your rates with your LTL carriers. And then coming into 2023, we're looking to expand that to first and final mile carriers, and also like expedite type carriers as well. So that adds that next segment to the type of rates that you could traditionally see in Freightos and Web Cargo.
Right, and then do you so first and final mile? Do you provide surcharges and dimensional rate factors as well? And is there a benefit for digitalization, or a platform like this, even for a company to better connect its departments internally? In other words, not only to connect to outside, booking, but also to just within a company to have a better sense of rates and rate management.
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to have multiple components of where customers can find value within using our platforms, right? So we see obviously the most logical role is going to be the operator who's going to be routing the freight and making the decision of which carriers are going to be used. But then it also ties into the back office processes, so they can do their audits to make sure that they're being charged what they're supposed to be charged. So when you're using a service like ours, we're aggregating all of your different carriers and all of your different rates into a centralized platform instead of having to go to various locations to get that information. So it just kind of really streamlines how much effort has to be put out to obtain an accurate quote and then make sure that you're being billed the correct amount as well. So I think in the first part, you mentioned the additional surcharges or even accessorials. So we have all that sort of stuff. We're maintaining that proactively for our freight forwarders. So where we have integrations with carriers, we're going to integrate directly with the carriers, but there's still a huge swath of data that's going to be manually maintained. So we're updating those on whatever schedule that the carriers are updating. And so then again, you're getting that complete information. It makes it really simple for the forwarders to get a quote. They just put in their pieces, dims, and weight, where it's going from, where it's coming from, where it's going to, and then we're going to do all the calculations for them, including oversized fees, things of that nature, where those can kind of be like pitfalls or aha moments for like the freight forwarders, where they don't think about We saw a shift from 12 feet down to 8 feet for oversized fees during the pandemic and things like that, where it's hard to communicate those changes across an entire organization. And this just makes sure that they're quoting correctly through the whole process.
Will there be any new product offerings that we should be on the lookout for? And will 7L go international, offering truck reservations in other countries?
Yeah, so we're already offering some rates internationally, both in Canada and Mexico as well. Um, and so right now we're actually getting ready to launch our LTL e-booking platform that's going to align with the air side as well. So like I mentioned, we have about 144 different carriers or so that are integrated in our platform. So as long as you have an account and are working with them, you're going to be able to actually dispatch your freight with those trucks, schedule your pickup, track and trace the freight, and accurately get your costs back into the platform as well. So that's something we're just starting to roll out to our customers.
Right. And so then that bundles well with the air side for airport to airport or airport drayage.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, like door to airport and airport to door.
Yep. Um, let's broaden the discussion a little bit. Do you think forwarders are investing enough in digitizing their processes to keep up with their customers and meet expectations for quickly securing capacity? In the past, I think many of them have, kind of lagged, adding those types of technical capabilities.
Yeah, I think that the industry's pretty wide. And so when you talk about enterprise forwarders versus SMBs, you're going to have kind of different conversations around both of them. But as a whole, we're seeing substantially more that's being invested in digitalization across all the different layers of the industry. So I think that they're starting to really embrace the fact that these kind of technologies are going to help them with their customers. That it's not going to replace the relationships with their customers. That they get to focus on different things rather than just generating quotes for them, and so they can create value elsewhere with their customer base. And I mean, we've seen an entire subset of forwarders that are digital freight forwarders that have been created as a result of the pandemic in the last couple of years, where you see there's some companies that are purely digital at this point.
And I guess that means they can tie more end-to-end processes or sourcing to the shipping component and everything more easily that way. It's so you kind of referred to it. It's been a tumultuous 3 years for supply chains because of the COVID pandemic. What lessons do you think businesses took from it, and how can a digital booking platform help reduce disruptions in the future?
Yeah, I think one of the things we saw is continuity, right? Like a business needed to be able to remain fluid throughout that entire period, whether they were in office, out of office, whether ports were shutting down or being open. And so being able to be a decentralized forwarder or decentralized business in general was something that came to the forefront for a lot of these companies. And they realized that their staff can be just as effective from wherever, so long as they have the right tools in place that are going to enable them to be able to do their job correctly. So I think that at the forefront, having a digital booking platform, regardless of the mode of transportation, is going to help in assist that your accounts are centralized for all your users. They know how to access your carriers, they know how to access your buy rates, and can still execute the shipments to continue to drive revenue through your doors and move your customers' product and shipments. I think that also ties into the need for real time information with how quickly everything was changing. I mean, we saw just most recently with the fuel surcharges going out of control that some companies were updating every single day for fuel. So having access to the real time instant rates through digital platforms really makes that less of a headache. Still not fun to see the volatility, but you don't have to keep up on it, and it's not going from 26% to 40% week over week, where you're not knowing those changes and having a potential profit leak. So I think as a whole, the biggest takeaways from these last few years were the ability to have a lot of flexibility and adaptability, and digital platforms are certainly aiding in that for freight forwarders.
Before I let you go, can you give us a sense of where you see, I guess, the trucking market as we finish up the peak season that really wasn't, and also there's potential for a rail strike right now in the U.S. And how do you see that impacting the trucking? Is there enough trucking capacity to take a lot of that intermodal overflow if that happens?
No, I mean we could always use some more trucking capacity. I think that would be fantastic for everybody. Adds more availability in that case. We don't really deal too much with the rail side of things, but it absolutely would have an effect on the air freight trucking. If all of a sudden that volume can't move over rail anymore. Uh, so I mean, I think as we didn't really see much of a peak season, I think towards the end of August, beginning of September was kind of our peak season this year, where we saw volume spike a bit, and now it's kind of tapered back off, and it's kind of slowly limped into the end of 2022 here. That we're gonna see more of that same kind of almost return to COVID levels, like where pre-COVID we were seeing that, like more of the traditional structure, and on the air freight side, we're seeing that PAX volumes keep going up, which adds more capacity into the market. And as a result of lower volumes today, it's depressing prices. The air freight rate costs have come down again compared to where they had been. So
Great. Well, that's all the time we have left. I think I'll leave it here. Brennan, thank you for being our guest today. Really appreciate it.
yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.